which is Betty style of coding. I think somebody told me how would he know what to do and what not to do when it comes to Betty style of coding. So I'll just probably go through it. I'm not a theoretical person. I'll probably just show us how we can literally just um, do Betty, right? So I hope all of us can see my screen. If you can't see my screen, then we won't be able to go forward. But then for the sake of this class, I'll create a directory that we can use to just show. I would love us to know how Betty works, right? For the sake of this class, we've always used this directory called C, right? So this directory for C. So I'm going to create mkdir. I'm sure we already know this, and I'm going to call it literally. Let me give it betty.c, right? And see. So we have betty.c. Um, Now in betty.c, I would like to go into betty.c and then make touch. Now sometimes you can literally just create touch dot whatever it is you want to do dot c. But then for the sake of this class, you can just directly just go to vi and it automatically just creates it for you. Okay, so touch. Let's call bets, then vi bet.c, and then we're here. My vi is already numbered. If you want to number it, we have, like our previous videos have all of that. So I'm going to just go straight to creating the structure of what do you call it? I'll create the structure of our code, right? Stdio.h, right? This is like our standard, right? So we have int main. This is solidly for Betty because so many people have issues when it comes to Betty style of coding. Okay, so I'm just trying to show you that this is like the natural way of running a code. Print f. I'll probably borrow from Ibere, right? He said, I can't remember. Is it ALX engineer, right? So ALX engineer. So this, then you have your return 0, and then you close, right? So basically, this particular code will naturally run, right? If we do gcc bet.c, and then you have the output, and I'll call it bet. All right, so this will run because if you do this bet, it should give us the code ALX engineer, right? Okay, we didn't use a new line there, so that's why it's giving us this. But the point I want to make is that this code is correct. But then, if we ask Betty what's wrong with this code, right? It will it will show us that this code is not obeying her. Okay, so what are the things that we need to put in consideration? Anytime we're trying to do Betty style, anytime we want to write Betty style, what is the things that we need to do exactly? Okay, it is very, very important for us to know these things and know how they work. All right. So, um, okay, just hold on a little. Let me get it out. So, So, WQ. Okay. So I just included. Then I'm going to compile again. I just included a new line to it. You have your output and bet. If you don't put this bet, if you don't put this, it will automatically put a.out for you. Okay, it's like just the compiler just automatically give you you know where it will store the file. okay, the compiled file, where you can give it a name anytime you can. So this is the output, ALX engineer, which is exactly what we did. But then if I call on Betty right now with the name of the file, right, it will show a lot of errors. Did you guys notice? So because we didn't obey the Betty laws, let me just call it laws, right? So this is what Betty is talking about. Let's go back to VI and see what Betty is saying. So Betty said, the first thing Betty said is that we must not put the first law, the first rule. Some people say, Betty is not agreeing. It's because you don't know exactly what you did. So the first thing about Betty is that you must not put two commands in two lines. Okay, I don't know if that makes sense, but you're not supposed to put two what do you call it, code in two lines. For instance, if you end this, you can literally do printf again here, right? And have it something like this. I am now an ALX software engineer. Okay, so you can do something like this, and by virtue of, let's try and see if this will run naturally after compiling it, right? And you can use your arrow sign to just literally go back to anything you typed on this, so it helps you save time. But I love going through the stress. Why? Because at the end of the day, you kind of get a hang of it, So ALX engineer, I am now an ALX. So everything works, as much as possible. Let me go back and put another line. You see how crazy this is here, guys? So you can add a line here, right? Okay, you can add a line here, right? A new line. So that means this is a correct code. What I'm trying to prove to you guys is that Betty does not accept this, but this is correct. So Betty does not accept first. The first rule of Betty is that you cannot have two codes on the same line. Never. As far as it ends with a semicolon here, this must go on a new line. Betty will allow it to go through. But if it is on the same line, Betty will cancel it for you. So that's the first problem you're going to encounter. Okay. So if I'm going to write this Betty style now, what I will do is I will just bring this down, right, in my insert mode, and Betty will accept it, But I told you guys that naturally, right, there's no problem having them on the same line. But as far as Betty style is concerned, you're going to have a problem with this. Now, the second one I want to talk about is, please, guys, by all means, when you're using your code in Betty style, that's why some people will go and do, and Betty will keep bringing them back. It's because, listen to me, you don't use spacebar in Betty. If I do like this, it's already a white space. Do you get? And you can never see it, because if I leave that line, I didn't know that there's a space there. It doesn't indicate. So you don't give a space. What you do is, if you want to indent, right, in a block of code is between these curly braces to the other one. All right. So if I want to indent in a block of code, I need to press the tab button. The tab button is used, not your spacebar. Your spacebar must not be used, by all means. So this will be corrected. This will be correct by Betty style, because I use tabs. If you use spacebar, some people, because they want it to look good, they look at what they do here. So they do something like this, they come back here and they space it. They do spacebar so that it can align. What I just did now, Betty will cancel that line entirely. So now Betty will have a problem with line 5, but will not have a problem with line 6, because line 6, there is no white space here. All right, that's another way Betty can frustrate you. Is because, you see, I have a line in line 2, I have a space in line 2. Can you see it? I have another one in line 5, right? Betty will cancel it. The next point is that this line 4 doesn't have anything. There's no code. There's nothing written on it. Betty will cancel it to tell you there's a white space in line 4, right? Now, what I tell people is that I know your code, literally your this thing looks like this. So you're always confused. If Betty says line 4, you don't even know where line 4 is, because you don't have numbering. Now, one of the easiest way to number your code, your program, is to just go back to your what do you call it, to your command mode. if you go back to your command mode by pressing escape in your insert mode, you'll be able to do colon set number with a space, set number. Look at what I'm doing. By the time you do set number, you'll be able to have, what do you call it? Numbering on your code. Now, without this numbering, with this numbering, it makes it so easy for you to know where the problem is. Now, do you know what we're going to do, guys? We're going to run this code now in Betty style, and we'll find out. And the thing about Betty is that it will tell you where the problem is. So let's try and, okay, let me finish all of the Betty rules, and then we'll go and start looking for how to fix them. All right, so this is, I say Betty will have a problem with number 2 because there's actually a space bar there. And then another thing again is there is actually a white line. This whole line that has no code, Betty doesn't want it. Betty wants, after this library, if you include this library standard input output header, then you go to int main up here. Except, of course, the only thing Betty can allow in that line is comment, right? So you can have, your comments, and then, you type, right? So, but by all means, and don't forget that Betty's style of comment must be like this, okay? By all means, it must be this way. All right. So that means I can write my code, my comments here, right? So I can write them here, and I'm good to go. And you must put the star, right? The star sign. Main, you can define your main function, all right, and say this is, where the code starts, blah blah blah, everything you're going to type. And then, of course, it will ask you for what your return. It will tell you, sometimes Betty will tell you, I didn't see the description for your return, right? You can do something like this, which is like a favorite thing we've always done, right? To show that, okay, this is it. And 0 means success, right? When it returns 0, it means that it's successful. If it doesn't return 0, then it is wrong. All right. So this is the only thing that Betty can allow. You see, on line 3, Betty will not allow line 3 because there's nothing on line 3. Okay. So you have to occupy virtually all of the spaces to maximize all of these things. So this Betty will allow, but you see, it's because every line from line 1 to line 6 has been occupied, right? But then from line 7, there's nothing here. So Betty will not allow this. So the best way, what you do is for you to delete, right? To delete this. And line 9 also, you have to delete it to be sure that Betty doesn't give you headache. Now, the next problem of Betty is that Betty does not allow you to, your curly braces must start from a new line. That's one problem people have. It must start on a new line. It must, the closing braces must go on a new line. So if you put it, of course, I told you guys that our code ran, right? Our code is correct. But the problem is Betty will not allow your code to go through because it must start on a new line. Your curly braces must start on a new line. So this is a Betty standard, right? But then let's go and ask Betty whether it has a problem with this. There are a lot of others. Another thing Betty has a problem with, when you're opening your bracket, right? Do not give space. Look at what I just did now. Do not give space inside your bracket. Betty will have a problem with that. She doesn't want spaces. So what you do is you make sure that all of these are closed, right? And be able to enjoy this. Now, look at this line 8. Line 8 has print F, and there's a space before the bracket. 9 doesn't have space before the bracket. So which one is correct? Which one will Betty allow, and which one will Betty not allow? So the next thing I'll be talking about is not the rules of Betty. Is that when you run your code, you'll be able to know which of the lines has a problem. Sometimes when they tell you guys, I see some people screenshot their codes, and then it says this line has a problem, but you don't you can't find it because your program is not numbered. So if you want to number, just go to your command mode, column set space number, you're good to go, right? And you can do that anytime you come around. Mine is permanent, and there's a way you can make it permanent. If you watch our previous videos, you'll be able to know how to do that. All right. So now if I do GCC, which is of course the normal compiler output bet, right? We'll try and see if this works. You see, my normal compiler said I have no problem with my code, right? But let's ask Betty, right? Let's ask Betty the code, right? And then Betty says I have a problem. So now look at this, guys. This is what the next thing I want to talk about in Betty. Some of you encounter this and you're demoralized. You have to use the, what do you call it, the grit mindset or whatever it is, to be able to find out, okay, what's the problem. So let's look at line 1. All right. So the line, this line of error says int main should probably be int main void. So Betty is telling us to go and put void here, right? So, and then it says it is in line 6. This number here is telling you what line the problem is faced, okay? So it's saying on line 6 in bet.c, which is the name of the file, line 6, there's an error, and it says instead of making it like this, we need to make it main void. All right, so let's go back and fix the problems one by one until Betty passes. Okay, so we'll go to our code again, then we go to insert mode, and then we add void, right? We add void in this main function. It says we should add void inside the brackets, okay? So I've been able to do that. I don't know why my system is holding back, but then I've been able to create main, the main function. I've been able to create, okay, let me do that again. Okay, I hope I'm not in my command mode yet. Okay, just hold on. Okay, I'm coming. Okay. Insert mode, right? So let's see if it will work right now. So there's supposed to be a void here, void. So Betty said, if you're creating your main function, please add void int main void to it. Okay, so that means doing it without the void in it, Betty will tell you, will flag it as error. So let's go back to our code again. I want us to fix the problems one by one. That's how to do it by yourself. You don't need to, you know. So let's go Betty, bet.c, and Betty said, we'll be able to fix the first one, go to the second and third. Don't be confused with all the red and yellow lines all over this place, right? So we have 4 errors, 3 warnings, and 11 lines of code has been checked, right? So we've already fixed this. Betty said, instead of having int main, just double. And don't forget, we've proven that our code is correct and it has run. It's just that Betty's style of coding has some specifications and we'll have to obey because our code will not check in our task, right? So Betty said we should add void, and I've been able to do that. You see the warning has disappeared, right? So we have the next warning. The next warning says space prohibited between function name and open parentheses. Now it's prohibited, right? So let's go back to function name and open parentheses. Is on line 6. Now you see all the lines are given, okay? So by the time we go back to line 6, right? bet dot, okay, our own vi, right? So we have, okay, hopefully the system will not disappoint. Okay, oh my god. So we'll wait for the system to allow me type vi bet.c. Okay, so what we're trying to do is to just know why Betty is always canceling or bringing up errors. Some people have done this like 1,000 times, but you don't know exactly what to do and what not to do. So I created a program that is acceptable. When I mean acceptable, it means the program is correct, okay? And then in this program, I was able to establish the fact that Betty will still rule that out since she has some rules that you have to adhere to. And I'm trying to state the rules before we even start correcting the rules, all right? I'll start implementing them. We'll get to the point where it's just show main and Betty will not have an issue with it, all right? So, okay, so my code is not even, okay, let's probably do this and see if we're going to get back on track again. All right, I'm trying to refresh the page as VIBET isn't working. So let's go back to LS. Okay, I already have a directory called C, and inside C, for the sake of this class, I created betty.c as the name of the directory, right? And then inside betty.c, I have, okay, so I need to cd it, right? Change directory to betty.c. That was what it came up with. It's not found, right? So we've changed it. So if you ls betty.c, you'll be able to get right. You'll be able to get bet.c. So if you do vi bet.c, it will take us to vi bet.c. It will take us to the file, to the program where we've been working on earlier. So I said this program, if you run it, is going to run, but then Betty has some things, right? And the how do you know what Betty is saying or not saying? You do Betty dot the name of the file, right? Dot C, and it will bring up all of the errors. So we're trying to fix errors line by line. So this says space prohibited between function name and open parentheses. So Betty doesn't just give you trouble, it actually gives you the solution. Okay, so it's important for you to look at it critically to know what the problem is exactly. Okay, so it is very, very important for you to do so. So let's go and fix this warning, right? No space. So we'll come to VI, right? And go to bet.c and then remove the space on line 6. Those of you who don't know how to put line, I explained that. If you follow our classes, you will know that that is what we've been doing, we've been explaining. So I've removed the line. They say before the open parentheses, after this main, there shouldn't be space in between. So some of you might even see, oh, that was why I had issues, because there was space. You'll be looking for space in the entire line, but Betty said it's only after before the parentheses that there shouldn't be space. So let's go back to our code and see if we are able to fix that. So Betty bet.c, which is the name of our code. So you see, we're able to fix this line also. So we've removed the space. The next one, it says line 8, trailing spaces. Line 8, trailing spaces. Let's go and check line 8 for trailing spaces, okay? So where's line 8? This is line 8. So this was what I was explaining earlier for those of us who were in the class at before the glitch. You remember, guys, that I put a lot of spaces here. If you're using in Betty style, do not use spacebar. Use tabs instead. So as far as you use spacebar, you're going to have issues. You see, I had spacebar. I did that intentionally so that you would see the problem Betty has. All right. So this is a tab. If you use a tab, just one tab, it indents. Now, indentation is allowed with Betty style. Don't forget. Some of you were writing your codes on this place. Of course, it's good. But if you do this, Betty will allow it. But then do not use spacebar. Do not use spacebar like this. All right. Do not use it. Betty will send an error for your code. So let's use this. We'll remove the trailing spaces, right? And then let's exit. We'll be clearing. Don't forget, the idea is to clear the problem one after the other. So Betty bet.c and see what happens. Okay. So we've actually removed this one, trailing spaces. We've removed it. So the next one is trailing white spaces. Okay, trailing in line 8. And then another thing again is between function name and open parentheses, there is no space. So let's see how we can remove that again. All right. So let's go back to bet.c. That's how to correct what do you call it, Betty's consistent problem. All right. So line 8, they say no spaces between these trailing spaces here. Right. Let's go after the code. So this is how to check. You see, after the code there are spaces. You see, now it doesn't want spaces after the code. It wants only spaces within the code. Now this is correct, but anything there was a space outside the code, that was why it said trailing spaces. But this place, make sure it's a tab, right, and then it works fine. And then here after your printf, make sure there's no space. Make sure there's no space. Let's go back and see if we have fixed that up. WQ, then Betty, then we have bet.c, and then we have only one error left. All right, we'll be able to fix these 2 errors, right? We'll be able to fix these 2 errors, remaining just one more. And Betty said parentheses are required on a return statement, right? So it's on line 10, okay? So let's go back to line 10 and see what's going on. Bet.c and see what is going on. So it says there's a parenthesis on line 10. So let's give these parentheses here, right, and see if this works. Okay, now we'll put our 0 in parentheses and then WQ and then Betty, bet.c and see if it works. As you can see, Betty said there's no description. Of course, we didn't want to, for the main function, no description found for main function. Okay, but that's not an error. It's just a warning, right? So, but we can be able to fix that. I'm just saying that we've already cleaned. You can imagine the bulk of error that we had here, but we're able to clean it down to this place because we already understood what Betty is asking us to do, and we'll go back to our code and fix it. Okay, so let's go back and try and fix the main function problem. Okay, Betty said there's no main function, and we have it here, the entry point. You can say this is the entry point. And don't forget, Betty doesn't want your description to be over 80 characters. If it's over 80 characters, it will come up with an error again. This is the entry point for this program to use printf. Okay, so you're good to go. This description is fantastic. Let's hope that Betty allows that also, right? So we have our main, we have Betty coming up again, and then Betsy, and then we have main. Okay, so it said one, no description found for main function. So what I do, anytime you have this, you've already had the main function, and then it keeps saying no description found, no description found. What I do is, I think I told someone to do the same thing, but I think the person didn't actually do it. I don't know if the person did it though. But then what I do is that I come here, I copy, I literally just, now if you want to delete a line, right? All you have to do is go to your command function and dd. I think we did that during shell. So I'm sure that all of us have a hang of this shortcut, all right? So what I do is that I literally just try to copy the entire program as much as possible. And after copying it, I probably go to my notepad and I paste it there, right? And I come here, I go to the command mode and I press DD and it deletes everything on the program. All right, so if you do DD, it deletes, right? Aha, so you see it deleted. So I do WQ, right? And I go back and I come back in again. This has worked for me. You could do that also. So I did Control-Shift-V, which is to paste, and I've gotten all of this. Now the problem is I copied including the numbers, so I'll use my time to remove white spaces and the numbers also. All right, so if you're able to run this, it should come up with it should be able to see the description, okay, that we've been talking about. Okay, so this is me trying to clean the code. Okay, this has worked for me. Maybe I was just able to, okay, let me do something. Control W colon Q exclamation. It doesn't save it because if you go back to, it will not save that particular. So what I do is I go to my notepad and I remove it from the notepad. Okay, so that it doesn't just come up with all of this. I don't need to do it on my VI. Okay, I'm trying to clear it from my notepad where I copied it. So if you have a problem, please recopy and paste your code. I think that's just the best way. It has worked for me. Because sometimes you do everything Betty says you should, and you will still not get it. Okay, so it's very important for you to do it the right way. Okay, no matter what it takes, just copy and paste it again. And it has worked for me, so it should be able to work for you also. So I've copied it, Control AC, then I'm coming to paste it here, right? So I have it. You see, it doesn't have the numbers again. So my printf, I indent it. Very key to indent it with your tab. Please do not use your, and our main function is there. Everything else is intact. Okay, no space, nothing. Okay, so let's go back. Escape, colon WQ, you're back here. Let's ask Betty if this is correct. Hopefully it will tell us there's no problem, Jerry. This is correct. It still say no description found for function name. Now, sometimes again, another way to go about it, don't forget that if you check your code right now, it will go through. It will go through. Because it has a warning, doesn't mean you have a problem. It should be able to go through. When it has error, that's where you have a very big problem. It will never ever go through. So sometimes what I do is, right, what I do is to bring most times the function, you can, since it's a comment, you can actually bring this, right? Okay, let me try and make this small letter. Sometimes it can just get very crazy with Betty. All right, so we have Betty again, and just keep working around it. You'll be able to get, you see the answer is correct now, just small letter. So you see the answer is correct because I use small letter for Betty. Okay, I use for main function, I use small letter, and it went through. So these are just the little things you can pick from this. Instead of using a capital letter here, make sure you use a small letter. The return can be a capital letter, no problem. 0, success, correct. And then make sure there's no space here, right? And then make sure your curly braces start on a new line and ends on a new line without spaces. And please do not use spaces. Always use indentation, and the indentation is your tab button. So this is me explaining Betty so that it doesn't give us problem. Please, if you want to number your program, okay, just go to your command mode, just try set number. So now that I want to remove, I'll remove it with set no number, right? It will remove the numbering. Set no number with a space in between, and it will be able to remove the numbering. Okay, so it's giving me issues. Oh, okay, so vibet.c, right? I'm back to my command mode again. So I'll try to do column set no number. Okay, how did I get to my insert mode? Okay, let me do that again. Where's my hash? Good. So out of insert mode. So what you do is you do column set no number, right? So it takes out the number. So most of you, your program looks like this. Okay, you cannot know what Betty. Okay, Betty said line 8. Where would you find line 8? So what you do is go to your command mode and click column, then set number for each of your program. Just set number on your, and then it brings the number. So if you go to Betty and it tells you line 8, line what? The lines are there. So you just fix the problem on that line. That's all. So some of you have a very long program and then you're wondering, where is my problem? Betty will tell you what line it is. All you have to do is do set number and you'll be able to have your number set. Okay. Now, another thing again is you can be able to do it permanently. Let me just do this just one last time. We've done this in our previous classes, but I feel we should just do it one last time. Like mine now, if I do vibet.c, it will come with numbers. It's automatic. It's because I set it permanently. So how do you set yours permanently so that all your codes from now henceforth on your intranet will come with numbers? It will help you know what problem you have on which number. What you're going to do is you go back to, okay, let me clear my screen once we're done with this, right? What you're going to do is that you have to go back to your home. So you do cd/, it takes you to home, wherever you are, right? Then from home, you have to use this special sign, right? Then you do this, you do dot, you do vimrc, right? This is the way to, okay, permission denied. Okay, root. All right, let me try that again. Okay, let me see cd root. Let's see if that would work. Okay, special sign. You have your /.vim. Sometimes I forget this code, right? But we'll find it today, whether they like it or not. Okay, I'm going to find that. Okay, so it's special sign. Let's try special sign, right? /vimrc. Let's see if this works. Okay. Now I get the error. So the problem is we have to do, okay, let me go back to home, right? The problem is you have to do vim, then you do this, all right? So you do have to do with vim in front of it, right? So /.vimrc. Okay, that did it. Okay, great. So this is it. So if you do this thing I just did now, yours will not have these things you are seeing on my screen. So you go to the insert mode and type syntax on, and then the next line you write set number. Then you exit and you do WQ. Then you're good to go. Your numbering just comes automatic. If I want to remove my numbering, now if you go back, you will notice that my numbering is there permanently, as I said earlier. Oh, sorry. I've forgotten totally that I wasn't in the folder. All right. I wasn't in the directory where I did this. Okay, so mine is that you see a number, you saw 1, right? So if I want to remove this permanently, what I do is I go to Vim, then the special character, I don't know what they call it, the /vimrc. If I go in, I'll just go to the second line in my insert mode and write no number, right? No. Immediately I do no, and I click on it, right? Okay, no. Immediately I click no and I escape and I do WQ, I should be able to have my number gone. So let's assume I want to do VI, maybe Jerry. I'm trying to create a file called Jerry, right? VI Jerry.c. It will not come with number because I have removed the number. If I want to set a temporal number, colon set number, just for this particular program, and it will come with number. And I want to remove it, same thing. I do set no number and I'm able to remove it. Okay. Then if I want to make it permanent, right, by all means, then I'll be able to do Vim, right? The special character /vimrc, and then I'll come here on the second line and I'll put syntax on. The next line I'll put set number, and I'll exit and I'll do WQ, save, and then this becomes permanent. So let's go to Jerry again, and then you'll see that it has numbers. So that's just it for the class today. Thank you very much everyone for joining.